In this video, we're just going to be porting over our JavaScript Parallax solution into React. So we have this little div fixed on screen. We enter the code for that div into this little function that we're going to create. This function returns a class component. We render the class component instead of the original JSX or the HTML, and then it just creates this little effect. When we scroll on the page, that little element scrolls at a different speed, creating that little parallax effect. And so if this interests you at all, be sure to follow our socials, the Instagram and the Twitter. We do daily posts on what we're working on, videos coming down the pipeline for the week. So be sure to follow us on those. And with all of that said, if this interests you at all, stick around. Let's begin. All right, so I have a basic ReactJS app up and running. I've just taken out all of the unnecessary files, things like testing files and icons and stuff like that. So let's start by normalizing the page and getting an image on the page. So let's do this. Let's go img source./back.png. All that is this guy right here. I'm just going to overlay that on the back. Let's create a style sheet for this guy. We'll throw it in the general folder styles.css. Let's say for the body, we'll do a margin of 0, the padding of the same. So a width of 100 viewport width, a height of 300, so we have room to move. And let's do overflow X hidden, so we have no horizontal scroll bar. Let's save that. Let's import that here. Import. And where is it? /styles. styles.css. Let's see what we got. Overflow hidden. There we go. All right, so we have the image on the page. Let's get a little orb going, just a circle in the middle. So let's do this. Let's go div, and we'll do a style object for this. So const styles. I have to say orb. We'll do a width of 100, 200 pixels. See what that looks like. Height of the same. We'll do a border radius of 50%. Let's position it in the middle of the screen. So position, we'll do absolute. We'll do a top of 50%. 50%. A left of the same, we'll do transform, translate, -50, -50. And we'll do a background color of blue. Background color of blue. Let's see what we got. Should they use it here? Styles equal to styles.orb. Save. There we go. So let's fix it on the screen. So that shouldn't be absolute. Let's do fixed right there. So now when we scroll, it doesn't move. All right, so let's get to the function that transforms this guy into a parallax element. We'll just create a new folder here for it. It returns a component, but it's not a component itself. It's just a function, but we'll just put it in a components folder like that. And we'll call it the Parallax JSX wrapper.js. Okay. Let's make sure this is a JavaScript React file. All right, so let's start. It's a function that returns a class component. We'll call this function Parallax JSX wrapper. It's going to take 2 arguments. The first is the actual element they want to wrap. So JSX element. The second is the weight. And so the higher the weight, the more, you could say it's kind of the inverse. So the higher the weight, the faster it goes. The slower the weight, the lower the number, the slower this thing is going to scroll relative to the scrolling here. So that's the weight. We need to return a class. We won't have a name for the class, just an anonymous class. So class extends react.component. And in every class, we need a constructor. And let's just import the React right now. Import React. We're also going to need fragment from React. All right. And let's do a render return, and we'll do a fragment for now. All right, so some props. we'll need the start position. So where does that object or whatever they give us? If this is a div, they go image. We can do entire React components. Where does that start on the page? So we'll say start position, and we'll just do a 0. We'll do a null for now. We're also going to know the ease. So when we set the state, this ease is just this width, or excuse me, this weight right here. So the default ease, if they don't give us one, we'll just do 0.05. And we need to know or save the actual transformed element. So after we transform the element, we're going to save it in the state of this, of what we return. So wrapped JSX element. And for this, we'll just do a blank ReactJSX element. So just a fragment like that. All right, looks good. Let's move on to the component did mount. So when we mount, we need to do this. So we need the, what do we need? Last offset. This is how we're going to keep track of where the image should move. We'll start at 0. We're also going to need to know if the animation loop is running. So animation running, start that at false. What else do we need? Last offset, animation running. I think that's it for now. I think we need one more thing. Oh yeah, we need this dot wrapped JSX element with a lowercase w. This is where we're going to store the actual ref. And so this is the actual component. There's just going to be a reference to this component. This is how we're going to manipulate this guy on screen. So we want to, let's say, access this guy's style.top or any style property. We're going to go through this guy, not through this guy. You'll see when we do it. But for now, let's just say null right now. All right, so when they give us the JSX element, there's no ref to this. So we have to create a ref and then bind that ref to this guy. So let's create a ref. Ref is equal to react.ref, or create ref, I think it was. Yeah, create ref. And so we have this ref. We now need to bind it to this guy right here. How do we do that? We're just going to clone this guy and then add the ref to the clone like this. So let's call this clone. Let's say JSX element with ref is equal to react.clone element. First argument is what do you want to clone? We'll clone the JSX element that they passed in, this guy right here. The second argument is what props do you want to have or attribute to this clone. So whatever they have already in this, we're going to pass into this guy right here. So we'll do it like this. Let's do a ... JSX element props, and of course you want to add the ref prop like that, ref. So we copied all the props that they already have, so we don't touch their props, and then we just add our own, the ref right here. Let's format. All right, so we have the JSX element with ref. This is the new component. So let's set the state. So save this guy into this guy right here. So this dot set state. And let's save the ease first. So the ease is the weight that they gave us, and the wrapped JSX element is that new JSX element with the ref attached. And after we set, we need to do a callback function. And in this callback function, we're going to do this dot set state. I'll explain it after I write it. So start position equal ref dot current dot offset. It was top. And afterwards, we need another callback function, and in here we're just going to do this dot wrapped JSX element is equal to that ref, and then document add event listener, and we're going to listen for the scroll, and every time we hear a scroll, we're going to manually scroll this guy using a function. That function is going to be called, we'll say animate scroll. All right, so what did I just write here? Let me do this right here. All right, so what did I just write? So the way this works is, actually, let me just show you instead of just talking about it. Let's see this, console.log ref. Let's save. Let's go back here, Control-Shift-J. And we have to call it. So let me call it like this. So the way this wrapper is going to work is this. Let's say import, what is it, Parallax JSX wrapper from components / parallax wrapper. We're going to use it like this. Say orb like this is equal to, and then we'll just say parallax wrapper. The first argument is what we want to wrap. So we can just copy or cut this out right here. So let me do this, Control X, Let's do Control V. And the second argument was the weight. We'll just do 0.05. That's the default, but we'll just put that right there. So now we have a transformed component. So we just have to substitute that code right here. So orb/, there we go. So when I save, I go back. Wrapper does not contain a default export. Forgot that part. Export default parallax wrapper. Save. All right. Offset top of null. Right. Ref.current.offset top. All right, so that's what I'm talking about here. Let's scroll up here. So look at the ref. Currently it's null. In order to get a ref to this element on screen, let's do, shouldn't have done that, let me do this. So in order to get a ref to this element on screen, this element has to actually be on screen. So before we haven't rendered it here, like this dot state dot wrapped, like that. Save. Let me try this. All right, let me do this. Control L, F5. All right, so notice the ref is current null. This ref has to point to this. So right here, we've just created an empty ref. We put the ref into the props of this, but this guy hasn't mounted before we use it here. So what we need to do, or what we did do, is we said this.setState, this wrapped JSX is this guy. This component now renders to the screen, and then afterwards the ref actually points to this guy, not before. So empty ref, mount the element to the screen, and then the ref points to this guy. So let me do this. Console.log ref, console.log ref, save, go back, and there we have this. F5, there we go. So that's before the mount to the screen. It points to nothing. We mount it to the screen, we go back to the ref, and now that ref is this div here with all those styles. Let me close this. So that's what this is here. We're just saving that ref now. If we saved this guy up here, we couldn't manipulate this guy. So we had to save it after we mount it to the screen. And of course, start position is just pointing to this wrapped JSX element, and we get the offset. We'll talk about the offset in a second. And then we just call the listener for the scroll, which calls the animation function. Speaking of which, let's write that. And so there's two functions to animate this thing. This.animate scroll, all that does is call the animation loop. It is not the animation loop itself. This is the animation loop. Like there. And there we go. So all we're going to do here is we're going to check. If there's no animation running, then we're going to run the animation. So request animation frame, this.animation loop. And of course, this.animation running is now equal to true. So let's write the actual animation loop. So we need two variables. First is the current offset. Offset, and that's going to be equal to window.page. Was it page y offset? Yeah. And then we need the difference. I'll explain what these are in a second. It's going to be current offset minus this.last offset. And the difference times equals the this.state.ease. So we're just easing, or we're slowing down or speeding up, depending on what fraction this is. We're slowing down or speeding up the difference. And so let's use that difference. So we're going to say, now that we have the ref, this.wrapped, current style top is equal to px. And the formula was what? This.start position, state.start position. State.start position minus this.last offset. And then it was, what was it? It was this.last offset plus equals that difference. And this is a recursive function. So it's a function that calls itself. That's why it's a loop. So request animation frame, this.animation loop. All right, so that was a lot. Let me explain. Let me open up Paint. There we go. All right, so the way we're tracking where this image is, or how far do we move it? That's what we want to know. So let's do this. Let's say we have the window, not the page, but the window like this. Can we do this outline Outline solid color. There we go, perfect. So that's the window of our browser, and then we have the page. Let's say the page starts. Gonna get a line. Where's a line? There we go. Let's use red for the line. Actually, let me do this. We're gonna need more space. Let's go black, square, rectangle. Control Z that. Let's do one rectangle here so I can show some progression. All right, line, red. Let's do this. All right, so this is the window. That's the same window. The page starts here. Let's say the page starts right at the top of the window. So right at the top, the page offset. Offset is just how far away from this window line. Let me get the brush here. Good. So how far away, let me use green. How far away from this window line is this line right now? When you default it, it's 0. So the current offset, the window.page offset, if I do this, window.page y offset is set to 0. If I scroll down, page offset, it's 500. Where does that 500 come from? Well, when we scroll the page down, our page, or we scroll the scroll bar down, the page actually scrolls up. So this line right here becomes or transports or moves up here like that. And so all that offset is, this formula right here, is just calculating this distance right here. This distance. And so if we move the page up this distance, we want to move that orb up that same distance. So that's all we're doing here, keeping track of how far this line goes up or goes down, and then moving our little orb, whatever you want, the same distance up or down. So that's that right there. This .state start position, last offset, and last offset just keeps track of the, let's do this. Control Z. So last offset just keeps track of black. Let's do this. It just keeps track of the distances adding up. So the last offset is 0 right here. That's 0. Let's say the last offset, the page moves up here. This guy should be black, but ignore that. Last offset moves here, or the page moves here. So the last offset is this guy right here. This distance here. Let's say we scroll down even further. So the page is right up here. And so the last offset would accumulate that difference, not here. Excuse me, not here, but here plus here. So in total, it would be here. So that's all this is doing. It's keeping track of the total distance from the start, from the Windows 0 position. That's right there, last offset plus equals difference, and then we just loop the animation. So let's actually use this thing. Let me close this. Let's do Control L. Let's delete some console logs. F5. There we go. Let's scroll up. F5. All right, so we're scrolling up, and there we go. It's working. But there's something we forgot to do. Control-Shift-J. Watch this. So whenever you have a recursive animation, let's do this. Console.log. And we'll just do that right there. So whenever you have a recursive animation, save, scroll down, let's do F5, there we go. So check out that ticker. That's never going to stop. This loop is looping infinitely. It's going to eat up resources if you have multiple elements scrolling on screen. And so whenever you have a recursive function, you need some sort of exit logic, some way for this loop to cut itself off. And so let's build that out. So all we're going to say is this: if math.absolute value of difference is less than 0.05, all that's saying basically is, has the element reached its destination? Has the distance gotten so small, below 0.05, that this element is basically stopped or should be stopped where it's when you've stopped this scroll bar, right there, right there. So if that's the case, if the difference is so small that it might as well be stopped, we're going to stop the loop. So we're going to say, what are we going to say? Let's say this dot, what are we going to do here? Let's say the last offset is now just equal to the current offset. So basically, it's done moving, just move it to its final position, which is the current offset. We're also going to stop the animation like this. Animation running is equal to false. I'm going to return out of the animation. This breaks the loop. And I think I might be missing one more thing. Difference, wrapped. Where are we at? Animation running, request. I think that should be it. Yeah, so let's go back and see if the animation loop is continuously running. Let's do this, save, go back. Let's do an F5. Let's scroll down a bit. And that guy should stop when this image stops. There we go, 103. Let's go down, let's go back up. And that guy should stop. There we go. So the recursive function has an exit clause. And I think that's it for the video. Whatever you feed it, it puts back. And again, this is just a div. You could do images. You could do whole, let's say you wrote a custom component called, I don't know, let's say custom component. For now, the way this wrapper component, like that. For now, the way this wrapper works is you could not put this guy in this function. This guy just takes JSX elements. So what you'd have to do is probably do something like this. Just a div like that, wrap this guy like that, and then feed that guy into here. Let's do const, say wrapped custom is equal to parallax wrapper, and then you just wrap the code like this. So it only takes basically HTML elements so far. Control X, Control V, there, let's say 0.0. It's not going to work because there's no custom comp, but this is how you'd use it. And then you just do your wrapped custom like that. And that's how you'd use this wrapper for your custom components. And again, images, divs, paragraphs, it works with everything. And so let me see, is that it for the video? I think that's it for the video. All right, so leave a like, it helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and I will see you. Let me clean this up a bit. I will see you guys in the next one.